All right, we're here with George Christie in the studio. He has a book out right now, XL on Front Street. Tell me about this book.
Well, I in 2011, I decided after 40 years I was going to walk away from the club. And
Was that hard for you?
Yeah, it was very hard. It was
emotionally or
emotionally, mentally.
Or worried?
No, I don't worry about anything. If I did worry, I wouldn't have wrote the book. But anyways, it was a situation where if I didn't leave, it would have strictly been because of my ego. And I felt that the club was going in a different direction. I'd been a leader in the club for 35 years, and, a lot of the younger guys didn't share my vision anymore. So I felt it was, 40 years was a good run. So
what was the difference in the visions?
Well, initially it was all about riding motorcycles, building motorcycles, partying, having fun. And when I walked away from the club, we were actually, and not only, the Hells Angels, but every major bike club in the United States was fighting with each other. And it just didn't interest me any longer. We were fighting on 5 fronts, and what happens is when you run out of opponents to fight, what happens is you start, turning inward. And I didn't want to be around for that.
Yeah. What year did you leave?
2011.
2011.
Yeah.
When you guys were here, were you guys fighting? I don't know. I'm not playing dumb, but we know the motorcycle gang that we see around here a lot are the Carnales.
Yeah, the Carnales have been in Ventura since I can remember. And, we always had a good relationship with them and a working relationship with them. They would come to the clubhouse, our clubhouse, and party with us. And, we would go to their events on occasion. And, some of those guys, I think, drifted off into the Mongols. That was one of the major bike clubs we were having issues with. And, it's one of those situations where, you have to evaluate, is the juice worth the squeeze? And for me, the juice wasn't sweet anymore.
And so you decided to...
I just left. Yeah, I went to the meeting and left, and that's,
How do you guys, what's the formality of that?
Well, I went there and expressed how I felt, and basically what I, just told you here, and I said I was going to go my separate ways. Initially, everything was okay, and then there was a riff with one of the other leaders, not around here, one of the leaders that I had been at odds with for about 15 years. And, he took that opportunity to, go on a character assassination of me and whatnot. So I wanted to set the record straight, and that's why I wrote the book. And I wanted to tell my side of the story. I found it kind of amusing that the Hells Angels would take to social media on a shaming campaign of me. I found it kind of ludicrous. But so, after that started, and then, there were all kinds of rumors that I had testified against people and I'd done this and I'd done that. Well, when I got indicted in 2011, I'm the only guy that went to prison. Everybody else testified against me, including, 3 Hells Angels. So, basically they said I was the leader and I had told them to do certain things, and I'm referring back to the fire bombings of the tattoo shops. And, I really wanted to tell the judge that it's obvious I didn't have anything to do with it because the tattoo shops were still standing when they threw the fire bombs. I think I'm a lot more accomplished than that.
When that first goes on, your brother's telling you, this is the dude who did it. He told me.
Right.
What is the feeling that you have inside you?
Well, I felt like they betrayed me, and they had got in trouble for other things, nothing to do with the tattoo shops. But the FBI had realized I had left the club, and I think they felt it was an opportunity to put the squeeze on me to see if I would cooperate with them. And I didn't, and I wound up on house arrest for 2 years fighting the case, and then I wound up, I got an additional year, and I spent that in Texas, which was kind of funny, because when I got back to Texas, the Banditos run the state of Texas. That's another outlaw bike club we've had issues with over the years. But you have to keep in mind, I was the negotiator for the club for 30 years. So when I got back to Texas to report to the prison back there, the Banditos were there, and I knew all the Banditos that were in prison there, and they had a cell waiting for me, and I wound up selling up with one of the Bandito leaders, and so it was like old home week for me back in Texas.
So they took care of you.
Oh yeah, they took care of me good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I developed a good relationship, with the Banditos, the Outlaws, the Mongols, all the clubs that we had major issues with. I wound up developing my own private relationships with them on personal levels. And we had the Mongols, the Banditos, even the Outlaws had been to the town of Ventura before. We were getting a lot of interactions with a lot of these different bike clubs. Even the clubs from Canada, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police came down here. They followed the Hells Angels from Canada down here. And, it was kind of interesting because they knocked on the door of the clubhouse. They wanted to take a picture in front of the clubhouse, and, which I found kind of ironic.